My dear friend, allow me to share with you something that has taken me decades of analyzing the human psyche to understand. There exists a quiet, almost imperceptible habit that distinguishes those who achieve true financial freedom from those who remain trapped in cycles of scarcity and self-sabotage. This habit operates beneath the threshold of conscious awareness, yet its effects ripple through every financial decision, every investment choice, every moment of economic uncertainty you will ever face. You see, in my years of studying the unconscious mind, I have observed that most people approach their financial lives with the same neurotic patterns that govern their deepest psychological wounds. They chase external validation through material accumulation, they repeat the same self-destructive behaviors their parents modeled, and they unconsciously sabotage their own success, because deep down, they believe they are unworthy of prosperity. But there is another way, a path that integrates the profound insights of psychoanalysis with practical financial wisdom. What I am about to reveal to you challenges everything the so-called financial experts tell you about building wealth. They focus on budgets and investment strategies, on diversification and compound interest. But they completely ignore the most powerful force in your financial life, your unconscious mind. The quiet habit I speak of is not about what you do with your money, but about how you relate to your own inner world, how you process the deepest fears and desires that drive every economic choice you make. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract financial opportunities, while others struggle, despite having all the right knowledge and strategies? The answer lies, not in their external circumstances, but in a fundamental shift in their psychological relationship with abundance itself. This shift manifests as a quiet habit, one that most people never notice, because it operates in the realm of the unconscious, yet its effects are unmistakable once you know what to look for. Before we dive deeper into this revelation, I want you to do something for me. Take a moment right now to reflect on your own financial journey. Think about the moments when you felt most confident about money, and contrast those with the times when financial anxiety consumed your thoughts. Notice the internal dialogue, the bodily sensations, the emotional undercurrents that accompanied each state. This awareness you are cultivating right now is the first step toward developing the quiet habit that will transform your financial reality. The habit I am referring to is what I call conscious financial introspection, and it represents a radical departure from the unconscious, reactive patterns that keep most people trapped in financial mediocrity. Unlike the surface-level positive thinking promoted by popular psychology, this practice involves a deep, honest examination of the psychological forces that drive your financial behaviors. It requires you to become aware of the unconscious beliefs, fears and desires that have been shaping your relationship with money since childhood. When I first began studying the connection between psychological development and financial success, I was struck by a remarkable pattern. Those individuals who achieved sustainable wealth, who seemed immune to the boom and bust cycles that devastate most investors, all shared a common characteristic. They had developed the capacity to observe their own financial thoughts and emotions with the detached curiosity of a scientist studying a fascinating specimen. They had learned to catch themselves in moments of fear-based decision-making, to recognize the childhood programming that whispered lies about their worthiness, and to make financial choices from a place of conscious awareness rather than unconscious compulsion. This quiet habit manifests differently for each individual, but its essence remains constant. It involves creating regular moments of solitude, where you examine not just your financial goals and strategies, but the deeper psychological currents that influence your relationship with money. You begin to notice the subtle ways your ego defends against abundance, how your superego judges financial desires as morally suspect, and how your ID impulses drive you toward immediate gratification at the expense of long-term security. Consider for a moment the last time you made a significant financial decision. Perhaps you chose to invest in a particular stock, or you decided to start a business, or you made a major purchase. What was the quality of your internal experience during that decision-making process? Were you calm and centered, able to access both your rational mind and your intuitive wisdom, or were you driven by anxiety, by the need to prove something to others, by unconscious patterns inherited from your family of origin? The financially unstoppable individual has learned to create space between stimulus and response, between financial trigger and financial action. They have developed what we might call a psychological immune system that protects them from the emotional volatility that causes most people to buy high and sell low, to chase get-rich-quick schemes, or to sabotage their own success just as breakthrough becomes possible. This immunity is not built through willpower or positive affirmations, but through the patient work of making the unconscious conscious. Let me pause here for a moment, because I sense that some of you are beginning to recognize something important in what I am sharing. Perhaps you are remembering moments when you made financial decisions from a place of fear or scarcity, times when you knew logically what you should do but found yourself compelled by forces you could not quite understand. If this resonates with you, I invite you to share in the comments below a simple phrase, "I am ready to understand." This small act of vulnerability creates a bridge between your conscious intention and your unconscious patterns, and it signals to your deeper mind that you are ready for transformation. You see, the act of commenting is not just about engagement with this content, although I deeply value your participation. When you write those words, you are actually performing a miniature version of the quiet habit I am describing. You are taking a moment to observe your internal response to new information, to acknowledge where you are in your financial journey, and to consciously choose connection over isolation. This moment of self-reflection and authentic expression is precisely the kind of practice that distinguishes those who achieve financial mastery from those who remain stuck in old patterns. Moreover, when you engage with this community through comments, you create what we might call a therapeutic container, a space where the unconscious financial patterns of many individuals can be brought into the light of consciousness. Just as my patients often discovered their deepest insights not in isolation, but through the process of being truly seen and understood, your financial transformation accelerates when you allow yourself to be witnessed by others who are walking a similar path. So please, take a moment to write, "I am ready to understand" in the comments, and notice what emotions arise as you do so. Now let us return to exploring this transformative habit in greater detail. The practice of conscious financial introspection involves several key elements that work together to create profound shifts in your economic reality. The first element is what I call temporal awareness, the ability to recognize how your past experiences with money continue to influence your present decisions. Most people live their financial lives as prisoners of their personal history, unconsciously recreating the same patterns of scarcity or abundance that they observed in their families of origin. Through conscious introspection, you begin to trace the roots of your financial behaviors back to their psychological origins. You might discover, for instance, that your tendency to hoard money stems from a childhood experience of economic instability, or that your compulsive spending represents an unconscious rebellion against a parent who valued frugality above all else. This awareness does not immediately eliminate these patterns, but it creates the possibility for conscious choice rather than unconscious compulsion. The second element involves what we might call emotional archaeology, the practice of excavating the feelings that lie buried beneath your financial decisions. Money, you see, is never just about money. It represents security, freedom, power, love, self-worth, and countless other psychological needs that may have nothing to do with actual economic necessity. When you learn to identify and honor these underlying emotional needs, you can address them directly, rather than hoping that financial success will somehow magically fulfill all your psychological longings. For example, if your drive to accumulate wealth stems from a deep fear of abandonment, no amount of money will ever feel like enough, because money cannot actually provide the emotional security you seek. However, when you recognize this pattern through conscious introspection, you can begin to address your abandonment fears directly while simultaneously building wealth from a place of psychological wholeness rather than neurotic compulsion. The third element of this practice involves developing what I call future memory, the capacity to viscerally imagine and embody the psychological state of your financially liberated self. This is not mere visualization or wishful thinking, but a sophisticated psychological process that begins to rewire your nervous system for abundance. When you can genuinely feel, in your body and your emotions, what it would be like to make financial decisions from a place of security rather than scarcity, you begin to naturally attract opportunities and make choices that align with that future reality. This process works because your unconscious mind does not distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual memories. When you repeatedly access the emotional and somatic state of financial freedom through conscious introspection, you create new neural pathways that support abundance-oriented behaviors. Your brain begins to recognize these states as familiar rather than foreign, making it increasingly natural to operate from a place of financial confidence. The fourth element involves what we might call shadow integration, the process of acknowledging and embracing the parts of yourself that you have deemed unacceptable in relationship to money. Perhaps you judge yourself for wanting wealth, believing that spiritual people should not care about material success. Or perhaps you have disowned your competitive instincts, your desire for luxury, or your need for financial recognition. These rejected aspects of your personality do not disappear simply because you refuse to acknowledge them. Instead, they operate unconsciously, often sabotaging the very success you consciously desire. Through conscious financial introspection, you learn to have honest conversations with these shadow aspects of your money psychology. You might discover, for instance, that your discomfort with earning significant income stems from a belief that making money means exploiting others, or that your fear of financial success reflects a deeper terror of outshining your parents or siblings. When you can hold these seemingly contradictory parts of yourself with compassion rather than judgment, they stop working against you and begin contributing to your financial evolution. The fifth and perhaps most crucial element of this practice involves cultivating what I call somatic financial intelligence, the ability to use your body as a guidance system for financial decisions. Your nervous system is constantly processing information about opportunities, risks, and authentic desires that your rational mind cannot access. When you learn to attune to the subtle sensations, the energetic shifts, the intuitive knowing that arises in your body when you contemplate different financial choices, you gain access to a form of intelligence that transcends conventional analysis. This somatic awareness requires patience and practice to develop, but its benefits are immeasurable. You begin to notice the physical tension that accompanies fear-based financial decisions, the energetic expansion that signals genuine opportunity, and the subtle contraction that warns you away from investments or business ventures that may look good on paper but feel wrong in your body. This integration of rational analysis with somatic wisdom creates a comprehensive decision-making framework that far surpasses either approach used in isolation. What makes this quiet habit so powerful is its cumulative effect over time. Each moment of conscious introspection builds upon previous insights, creating an ever-deepening understanding of your financial psychology and an ever-expanding capacity to make choices from awareness rather than reactivity. You begin to notice that financial stress decreases not because your external circumstances have dramatically changed, but because you have developed the internal resources to navigate uncertainty with grace and wisdom. Furthermore, this practice creates what we might call a benevolent feedback loop in your relationship with money. As you become more conscious of your financial patterns and more accepting of your complete money psychology, you naturally begin to make better decisions. These improved choices lead to better outcomes which reinforce your confidence in the introspective process and motivate you to go even deeper. Over time, you develop what can only be described as financial intuition, an almost supernatural ability to sense opportunities and navigate challenges with minimal stress and maximum effectiveness. The research emerging from modern neuroscience and behavioral psychology validates what I intuited decades ago through clinical observation, that conscious awareness of unconscious patterns is the most reliable path to sustainable behavioral change. When you understand the psychological roots of your financial behaviors, you gain the power to transform them at their source, rather than simply managing their symptoms through willpower and external strategies. Now, I want to introduce you to the practical framework that makes this transformation possible, what I call the psychoanalytic wealth integration method. This approach differs fundamentally from traditional financial planning because it addresses the psychological foundations of wealth creation, rather than focusing solely on external strategies and techniques. It recognizes that lasting financial success requires not just knowledge about money, but deep understanding of the unconscious forces that drive financial behavior. The method begins with what we call financial archaeology, a systematic exploration of your money history designed to uncover the hidden beliefs, traumas, and patterns that shape your current relationship with wealth. This is not a superficial review of your past financial decisions, but a deep dive into the emotional and psychological context that surrounded your earliest money memories. You learn to identify the moments of financial wounding that created limiting beliefs, the family dynamics that shaped your money script, and the cultural messages that continue to influence your financial choices. From this foundation of self-understanding, you move into what we term conscious financial design, the process of intentionally creating new patterns and practices that align with your authentic values and deepest desires, rather than your inherited programming. This involves not just setting financial goals, but consciously choosing the psychological state from which you want to pursue those goals. You learn to distinguish between goals that arise from genuine desire and those that stem from unconscious attempts to heal old wounds or prove your worth to others. The final phase involves ongoing integration and refinement, the establishment of daily and weekly practices that maintain your conscious connection to your financial psychology while supporting continued growth and evolution. This is where the quiet habit becomes a permanent part of your life, a reliable source of guidance and wisdom that accompanies you through all the inevitable ups and downs of your financial journey. I must tell you that this approach requires courage, patience, and a willingness to face aspects of yourself that you may have preferred to keep hidden. It demands that you move beyond the comfortable illusions of purely external financial solutions and engage with the messy, complex, ultimately beautiful reality of your complete human psychology. But for those who commit to this path, the rewards extend far beyond mere financial success, into realms of personal freedom, authentic self-expression, and profound inner peace that no amount of money could ever purchase. The quiet habit I speak of is ultimately about developing a conscious, compassionate, and curious relationship with every aspect of your financial life. It transforms money from a source of stress and conflict into a vehicle for self-discovery and creative expression. It allows you to pursue wealth not from a place of desperate need or ego gratification, but from a genuine desire to express your gifts in the world and create positive impact through financial abundance. As we conclude our exploration today, I want you to understand that everything I have shared represents merely the beginning of a much deeper journey. The insights and practices I have outlined require ongoing commitment and refinement, but they offer something that no external financial strategy can provide: the unshakable inner security that comes from understanding and accepting your complete money psychology. I recognize that this journey toward financial consciousness is not always easy. There will be moments when you feel overwhelmed by the depth of your financial patterns, times when you question whether this internal work is really necessary, periods when you are tempted to return to the simpler but ultimately ineffective approaches offered by conventional financial advice. This is natural and expected, and it is precisely why I have created this community of conscious financial explorers. When you subscribe to this channel and engage with this content regularly, you are not just consuming information about money, you are participating in a collective awakening to the deeper dimensions of wealth creation. You are joining a community of individuals who understand that true financial freedom requires inner transformation as much as external strategy, who value psychological wisdom as highly as investment knowledge, and who are committed to building wealth in ways that honor both material success and spiritual growth. I invite you to like this video if it has resonated with your deeper knowing about the connection between consciousness and financial success. Your engagement helps this message reach others who are ready for this level of financial truth, and it creates a signal to the algorithm gods that content of this depth and significance deserves wider distribution. More importantly, the act of liking represents your conscious choice to align with a community that values psychological wisdom alongside financial intelligence. Remember, my friend, that every moment offers you the opportunity to practice this quiet habit of conscious financial introspection. Whether you are checking your bank balance, considering an investment opportunity, or simply walking past an expensive item in a store, you can pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what is really happening in my inner world right now? What fears, desires, or old patterns are influencing my relationship with this moment? This simple practice, repeated consistently over time, will transform your financial life in ways that no external strategy ever could. What I find most remarkable about this journey toward financial consciousness is how it begins to affect every area of your life, not just your relationship with money. As you develop the capacity for conscious financial introspection, you simultaneously cultivate a deeper capacity for authentic relationship with others, for creative expression, for spiritual connection, and for meaningful contribution to the world around you. This is because money, at its deepest level, is simply energy. And when you learn to relate consciously to financial energy, you develop skills that translate into every domain of human experience. You may notice, for instance, that as you become more aware of your unconscious financial patterns, you also become more attuned to the unconscious patterns that govern your romantic relationships, your professional interactions, and your spiritual practices. The same ego defenses that protect you from financial vulnerability also shield you from emotional intimacy. The same perfectionist tendencies that sabotage your business ventures also limit your creative expression. The same fear of judgment that keeps you playing small financially also prevents you from sharing your deepest gifts with the world. This interconnectedness is why the quiet habit of conscious financial introspection is so transformative. It serves as a gateway into a more conscious way of being that permeates every aspect of your existence. As you heal your relationship with money, you simultaneously heal your relationship with power, with creativity, with service, and with love itself. This is the true meaning of becoming financially unstoppable. Not merely accumulating wealth, but developing the psychological freedom to engage with all of life from a place of conscious choice rather than unconscious compulsion. I want to leave you with one final insight that has emerged from my decades of studying the human psyche and its relationship to material abundance. The individuals who achieve the deepest levels of financial freedom are not those who have conquered their fears and limitations. but those who have learned to dance with them consciously. They understand that fear, desire, insecurity and ambition are not obstacles to overcome but natural forces to be understood, honored, and channeled toward constructive ends. The path to becoming financially unstoppable begins not with your next investment or business venture, but with your willingness to turn toward your own financial psychology, with the same curiosity and compassion that you would offer to a dear friend in need of understanding. In this turning toward yourself, in this quiet habit of conscious introspection, you discover the greatest wealth of all, the profound peace and unshakable confidence that comes from knowing yourself completely and loving yourself unconditionally, money patterns and all.